Hey guys, welcome back to Your Two Cents, the roundtable where your voice shapes the conversation. I'm Mae,
I'm Tonya.
and today we have a very special guest, if you may notice. Joining us live from the Binghamton studio, we have Mr. Brad Eaton. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, we're going to talk with Brad today about a couple of things. But first, before we break into that, maybe give us like a fun fact about you that people might not know.
Yeah, fun facts. Well, first of all, I've been in the business for a long time. It's been about 35 years, investment management service and working with clients, and it's something I really, really enjoy. And I love what we can do, especially here at S.E.E.D, what we can bring to our clients. But fun facts personally about me, I'm a person, I love the outdoors. I love to fish, love hiking, love going down to the mountains. And it's been great being down in Knoxville a couple of times to go hiking in the mountains down that way. But really just love the outdoors in a lot of different ways.
But you're not a magician like
No.
CJ. I mean, that was a pretty good fun fact about him.
I did not expect that one at all.
We want card tricks, Brad. Card tricks.
Oh, all right, guys. So, like I said, we have a couple of things we're going to talk about today. One of them actually came from a question that one of our clients submitted. So, first off, thank you for doing that because it gave us a topic to wrangle Brad in today. So, it was a good excuse. But let's start with that. So, the question we received was I think the newsletter might benefit from specific examples of information on how Seed is managing and adjusting its client portfolios in response to things that are in the news. Can you weigh in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we get that question often because, especially in a year like we've seen so far in 2025, we've had a lot of market volatility, and a lot of that volatility has been driven by events in the news. So when we think about the market and how the market reacts, I mean, the market is really an entity built up of investors across the entire spectrum. And the one thing we need to be careful about is that investors, both institutional and individual investors, are emotionally driven when they think about news events. So we do follow the news on a regular basis, and we're always keeping up to date on what's going on with the companies that we own in our clients' portfolios, as well as companies that we're currently under review. We're always monitoring, economic news and just really a lot of the political news. I mean, there's a lot that's going on politically that's driving the markets as well. So we are following the news very closely. Um, we're often asked the question about whether or not we make changes to our portfolio specifically based upon events that we see in the news. And I would caution any investor against doing that. And again, as we talked about the market and investors being very emotionally driven when they're thinking about changes based upon news events, the market typically um, is very emotional, and it overreacts and it underreacts to different news events. So when we think about it, I should say it overreacts, but it's both on the upside and on the downside. So when there's news out that would be positive or stimulative to the market often overreacts to that good news. When we hear about a negative news event, the market often overreacts on the downside. So we've got to be careful not to let emotions drive the changes that we're making, but yet at the same time still monitor a news event. So just an example is if we're following a particular company and there's a news event that comes out, um, perhaps surrounding the company's earnings. So maybe the stock is trading down or the company's trading down a bit. Oftentimes, the price of the stock is driven down farther than it actually is appropriate for the valuation of the stock. So typically what we'll do is we'll monitor the news, we'll see what the activity is or what the news event is that's driving the stock, and determine whether or not the mark or the stock in question is perhaps oversold. So we may sit tight, let the market kind of work itself out, and then make a more prudent decision on what our response would be. Similarly, when we think about all the political events that were driving the news back in the springtime, we need to recognize and we can look back historically and use that information as data that kind of backs up our decision. But we often realize that that type of news will create anxiety and emotion in the markets too. And the same thing, you kind of want to let the news settle out, kind of let things get back to an equal footing, and then make a determination on whether or not that news event should be incorporated into our decision making process. So yes, we're always monitoring and following the news act very actively, but just again, we may not have very quick changes to a portfolio based on a recent news event.
So that was a lot of wisdom there. I think that's the beauty of listening to your team, Brad, because we heard it from CJ as well, that you guys are in it for the long run and the consistency of that. Um, I think that speaks volume of to the need of your team because you're not only your wisdom, but the mentoring and just being that stable voice of, hey, we hear what's going on, we see you, we understand your fears, your concerns. But this is where we're coming from our experience, the historical facts of how the stocks work in these times. And so I really appreciate that you can speak to our clients in a way that brings them clarity and calmness, but also that you are monitoring it, and that you are there for them to reach their goals and their desires. So I know it's not easy. I know it's a lot of work, a lot of research from your team, and we absolutely appreciate you being there. And so that just kind of leads us to the next question. You have recently launched a new conjuncture of seed. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. And another great question. And so if we think back to the roots of managing our clients' investments here at Seed, and this goes back 10 or 12 years at least, and primarily at that point in time when we really, the company first got up and running, and we were, as you all know, we're a financial planning company. And our investment philosophy at the time was really driven by the needs of our financial planning clients. So our strategy was built out as such. As time progressed, especially over the last, say, 5 years, we have continued to grow considerably. And we've got a large portion of our client base that is not just financial planning clients, but also clients that come to us only for their investment management services. And those could be high net worth individuals, institutions, and not for profit organizations. And we also have clients that come to us for investment advice. So they're looking for consulting services. So over time, and again, really, this has ramped up over the past 5 years or so. We've grown considerably, and the scope of services that we can bring to the table for our clients has expanded fairly significantly. So we wanted to ensure that we weren't, from a perception standpoint, from a branding standpoint, we wanted to make sure that we weren't limited to the perception that, hey, we're just here for our financial planning clients, because we've grown to be so much more. So about 3 years ago, we kind of embarked on the path of determining what it would look like to have the investment group kind of split into a subdivision of Seed, or subsidiary of Seed, um, that really allowed us to leverage our expertise and kind of brand ourselves and those different services that we provide. So over the past couple of years, we've done a lot of work on trying to identify, what that scope of services would look like. And as you're talking about, how do we want to brand that subdivision going forward? So just to take a minute to talk about, the name Sift and where that came from. Um, you know, we met with some marketing folks, and we found that really what's important when you're trying to create a brand identity is to have a name that's recognizable and something that's easy to remember. So we figured, one word, maybe two words, that also ties back to the nature of the business or the services that we're providing. So when the name Sift came up, we got really thinking about, well, what is it that we do? What do we do from an investment management standpoint? And how does our process work? Our process is very methodical, very much research driven, and it's really dedicated to the service that we provide our clients. So when we thought about all of the work and the research and everything that goes into our process, really we're always looking for new ideas and better ideas that can help improve the level of service that we're bringing to our investment clients. So when the name Sift was first brought to our attention, we looked at it from the standpoint of the definition of Sift, that really is a lot of due diligence and research put into a process to help identify those best opportunities or those best ideas that you can bring to a company. So that name really resonated to us. So the more we talked about it and the more we thought about it, we really did feel that name represented the process that we go through on a daily basis for what we do for our financial planning clients, for our company as a whole, and for our non financial planning clients. So that was really where that originated and how the name came to us. We've spent the past year or so really looking into the marketing side of it. How do we bring these different services that we provide to our prospective and existing clients in the best way? And that resulted in the launch of the company just about a week ago.
That's awesome. I'm so excited about it. I love the name. I love the imagery that comes from it. And as far as clients who are watching this, we just encourage you to, get onto our website, look at it, look at the new Sift site. And then also, again, with this newsletter, you've heard from CJ last episode and Brad this one. We want to continue hearing from you, from your questions, even if it's, you may think that, maybe it's not a very important question, but it's something on your mind. If you think about it a few times, that means that it's important to you. And so we just ask, take the time, respond, into the newsletter and contact us. And we'd be more than happy to sit down with you and have these discussions with you. And Brad, thank you for coming upon on this podcast with us and sharing your wisdom. And we look forward to seeing what Sift can do and your team can do.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.